we will speak about some very important factors to take in account when you design a page. This is balance, time, and order. Let's begin with balance. Balance, you can say also equilibrium, is defined here, but I'm sure you already know what it means, and is what makes things stay well together. What is and why equilibrium is so important? Have a look to this box. If I put a bullet in the center, and I ask these things have been done with experiments over a large amount of people. If they found this in equilibrium, basically 100% of the person will say yes. If I put something like this, people will not find it in equilibrium. And so on. You can make this experiment with many people, and at the end of the game, what comes out is that things are considered in an equilibrium, in a balance, when it's easy for the brain to find a rule. Because as I told you several times, our brain has an activity that it goes by itself, even you don't think to something. And every time it sees something, tries to find rules. One of the rules is something is in the center, something is in the diagonal position, and something is not. For these two, you cannot find an equilibrium. They are like that. So when you design or you judge a page, try to look at it and say what the brain of my customer will do and how will react in front of this. This equilibrium, say not balanced things, have been used a lot by artists. In this beautiful painting, this is Vincent van Gogh, The Night with Star. As you see, the stars that are strange because they are stars, but they are drawn as suns. Beautiful painting. If by chance you go to Amsterdam, there is a beautiful museum of Van Gogh in Amsterdam as there. They are all in non-equilibrium position. Why? Because the author, maybe unconsciously, but he wanted to give to the people the sensation of being somehow strange. On the other side, in paintings, especially in liturgical painting, equilibrium and position is used to give the idea of the things. In this case, these two things, this Jesus Christ, are in the center and the other are down in this equilibrium. So the idea is Christ is the equilibrium and all the other are not. But if, for instance, if you go to the beautiful temples in India, the Jain temple is full of this kind of things. A beautiful statue with something that looks strange under it. The same here. This is Venus that comes from this burn of Venus. Equilibrium does not mean that we consider diagonal or consider center. You can have different idea of equilibrium. The important thing is to choose one for your page and follow it. Don't mix things up. If you mix things up, sometimes you see horrible web pages that the first page is a single column, then becomes two columns vertically divided, then two columns horizontally divided. People will get lost there. There is not a prize for the maximum of mess. There is a prize of the maximum of ability to give the message, and good messages are given also through equilibrium. And so what? Balance is a very important thing, and that you can have different type of balance. Symmetric balance, one side and the other. Asymmetric balance, you can decide that if you, for instance, in a page, you have something extremely important and some notes about it, you can put the important thing very big and the notes very small. If you have the chance, have a look to the pages of the Talmud. Talmud is one of the most important books in the Jewish culture. The Talmud is done like this. There is the text in the center, actually it's the Kabbalah, and then all around different little chunk of, if you look at it, it looks like a web page, and links. Links did not exist. So what they did, they reprinted piece of other books nearby the Kabbalah. Then you can have a radial balance, something coming from the center and going like this. You know, this is very common, for instance, when you have some products to sell. Products to sell, you can put in the center a symbol and that the different products coming out. But balance is not something that you do only by position, but balance is in color, in texture. If you decide in the page to use two different fonts, you remember last time we spoke about fonts, okay, don't use too many, but you can use two fonts. But there must be a reason, and people should be able to understand why a piece is one font and why the other piece. For instance, titles can have a font different. I don't like it. I prefer to have a single one, but could be, but must be coherent. Then, our pages are not pictures. It's not something that people look one after the other. Pages are moving. So we must take in account also the flow of time and how time flowing gives the idea of our page to our customer. I always put the definition. Of course, you know the definition. I have a look because I have different. In order to understand the idea of dimension, type is a sort of third dimension. In your page, you have a vertical dimension, horizontal dimension, and then time that goes up and down. Going on absolutely on the other side, but it's very good to understand the idea of multiple dimension. And I strongly feel that the designer should absolutely read this book. Anybody have read Sletlandia? It's a beautiful book. It's a short book. You can read in a few hours, and it's the description of a world with one dimension, not two. In order to understand how time is involved in our page, one of the most important things is what is called delta t. Delta in mathematics is the difference between something. Delta t is the difference between the time you give an order to the system, push the button, and the time the page comes out. In this case, things have changed a lot. I am old enough to have seen the first internet. It was called ARPANET, and was only alphabetic, and characters were coming out like this, tick, 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 tick. For one page, it takes 20 minutes. Nowadays, it's almost instantaneous. Also in the telephone. I got a new Apple 15 Pro Max, and it has a camera that is incredible. But what you really feel is the speed. You push the button and everything is done. Of course, you feel the speed if you are like in Milano under 5G connection, but you feel the speed immediately when you try to make, I like to take a picture, and when you make elaboration of a picture is a very say, heavy things in the, say, from the point of view of the power of the machine, and it's instantaneous. You go in Photoshop, you ask to change white point. Sometimes you don't feel this done. It's not working. No, it's working. It finished. So always think that when the customer gives an order, you will have somehow a retard in the order. To give you an idea of the times, guarda che c'è qualcuno che è in attesa, Paolo. Anzi, tanti.
Oh.
Ah no, gli altri cosa? Perché si è aperta
una chat. Lo scrivo, lo so. Lo scrivo.
Perché non fai in attesa, online, there will be the school soon. Vabbè, ok. So, if you have zero, because remember that what is important is how the brain perceives the time, not the machine. If you have a time that is around 0.1, 1/10 of a second, people will feel it as instantaneous, will not perceive the passing of time. The limit for the user to feel that the system is working well is 1 second. Push and 1 second. 10 seconds is the maximum allowed. Of course, if there is a huge database around, for instance, if I go to the Library of Congress of the US that has all the books that have been printed in the history of humanity in the world, it will take some time. So you must evaluate this time, and if it takes some time, you should at least tell to the customer that the system is still alive and he has to wait. Because sometimes, for instance, have you ever bought a ticket with the Italian railway system? It's horrible, because sometimes it's like it is frozen, especially when you try to pay. And so you don't know if you have paid, you have not paid. Hai visto che l'ha peggiorato notevolmente il sito? Ma molto peggio di come era prima. Okay, anyway, if you have time, have a look to this link that describe in a longer way what I'm saying. I was saying if long time is needed, put something that tells to the customer, I am alive, I am here, wait and you will have your data. Otherwise, people will shut down the browser and come again and will never see the data. You know, the risk is to lose the customer for it. If it's possible, put a progress indicator. If I am downloading a file, if the file is 10 megabytes, it's like WeTransfer, tells you, okay, I am at 10%, 20%, so people knows what's going on. In the case of image, you have a choice. You can download the image totally and then, boom, give the image, or put what you have. The image is coming down. This is valid for GIFs. GIFs are coming down. They are coarse, better, better, and better. So when you have an image that becomes better and better, you feel that is going down. And even more important, if you are looking for some image, sometimes, even if it's very coarse and horrible, you feel that it's not the image you're looking for. And so you can switch off and take another one. I told you that websites are moving, so we should learn something about movie makers, because they are managing this problem since always. And what they use movie makers, use this idea to make different picture of the situation in order to have a look and say, oh, it's going well. And then they apply some rules. This is another movie. This is how we build this. This is a project we did several years ago. And so each of the little pictures is a situation. So you can go to the customer. It's the first type of prototyping you can do. Even on paper, you go to the customer and say, listen, if you do this, you will have this, and then you will have this one. And you can discuss with them. And this is another example. I do love paper prototyping. Paper prototyping is very easy to do. You just need paper, pencil, some scotch, and the important thing is that if you begin with paper prototyping, people will be very keen to say, they will give attention to important things. Nobody will tell you, I want the bottom clean, because there is no color in the bottom. And it's very important because the attention must be in the process, not in the particular. Then you go on, and this technology is called prototyping. You make a prototype, you show to the customer. Even better prototype, you can make picture, animate them, so they can navigate it, and you do better, better, and better until the system is ready. One of the most important things used in movie making is the attention of what's happened when the scenario changes. There is a concept that is called easy correlation. Means if I have something happening and then suddenly it goes out and comes back, the brain of the people that is looking at the film should be able easily to understand what happened. Should not be something that comes from the blue, but something that is related to the things he was already seeing. For instance, there is the problem of position. If I go from there to there, or from this to this, is okay, because the lady is on the right. If I go from here to here, people will be upset, will not understand what's happening to this young lady. Oh, this is another possibility. So you must have the possibility of understanding what's going on. You can apply this, for instance, when you have a long page. Instead of having different pieces of page going bum, 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 in modern computer and in modern website, you use scrolling. Scrolling, but why? Because you go in the direction where your brain is trained. You are trained since you are a little child to see long piece of paper with something written. So you go up and down in the piece of paper. Another thing is when you have a window and you want to close it, instead of closing it, it's much better to have a fast animation. So you see the window that closed, and you have the idea of what's happening. So what? You must take in account page load time. Page load time depends on the quality of your provider. You can have a very fantastic connection and a server, or if you don't pay enough, you will have a horrible. Navigation speed, how the system is faster in giving you the page. Then you must take in account how much time the customer spends on the page. And you know, this is something you can measure. In a website, we have no time in this course to look at all these kind of things, but one of the most important things that you can do is to ask to your provider the logo of the functioning of your website, and you will see that customer says, for instance, 10 seconds on the page. If in a simple page with nothing sexy, sexy I mean attractive, people stays too long, this is a warning alert. Say, be careful. Here should be a page to choose something. If the customer takes 2 minutes to choose, means that the page is not well written, and you should have a look. And at the end, the other thing is interaction time. But we will see interaction time when we speak about form design next time. Then the last thing is order. You know what is order? Order, this is the definition. Again, order is putting things in the page or wherever, following rules, some precise rules. You know what is this? There's a cable system for an office. It's connecting all the... No, this is exactly the same as this. This has been done in an horrible way. This has been done in the right way. 99.5% of the system is like this because you need time to do the other. So if something goes wrong, here you can say it's the second from top, tack, take out. Here you can begin taking cable, and before getting the right one, you will have. If by chance you go in a city or in our East, especially in India, have a look on the cable over the poles in the street. They are much worse than that. There's a lot of cable, a lot of different colors. And once I met a person that was making maintenance, they asked them, but how come you have so many cables? I said, the problem is it's a mess. So when something goes wrong, instead of changing, we put another one. And so that's why it grows up forever. I was telling you that brain is looking for rules. You know this painting? Las Meninas de Velázquez is a beautiful painting. If you go in the internet and look for explanation of this painting, you will find many different explanations. So asking who is the most important figure, who is the less important, for instance. But the interesting thing is if you make an experiment, reversing it, and you ask the same question, you will have totally different answer. Because we have some direction that are somehow connected with our brain. Have you ever seen this? It's beautiful, it's in Madrid. It's the version of Pablo Picasso of the same painting. You know, there's basically the same person, a little different in drawing, but that gives you the idea that only the position can give you the idea of feeling of it. One of the most important things we must take into account is that in our culture, when I say our culture, I mean in people writing from left to right, up, down. You know that we don't have anybody here from Arabic country. In Arabia, we have some Iranian? No, don't remember. For instance, in Arabic country, they go from left to right. So you go like this. I don't remember. In South India, Tamil, they go Urdu, because Urdu is very near to the Arabic. I remember that is some. Urdu is the language spoken by Muslim in India. And so there is. But in our culture, we go from top, down, left to right. So if you put something like this, you have the idea that something is going down. If you put something like this, something is going up. As usual happens, as always happens, artists, they know very well this. So if you go around and you look for something that is representing people going on the sky will almost always be like this, because the perception is they are going up. On the other side, when you have a page, since forever when the scripting was being invented, script goes from top down like this. So in the upper part, we have the most important thing. And what is in a web page one of the most important things? What we have in the upper left corner? The logo of the company normally. That's why it's coming from far. No? Logo of the company, and then we have a lot of possible positions. This thing is coming from far. In 1987, IBM has written these rules. They are very old. They put it because it's in history. These are the rules. Just have a look by this. What is this? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Don't know, we've never seen this. This is the very first personal computer. It's the inside. It was not Apple. Apple is a fantastic company because Apple did never invent nothing. They were able to take something invented by somebody else and do it much better. Imagine the telephone, but also the iPod. Before it was being done in Germany, the iPod and the MP3 standard has been invented in Italy, so it has nothing to do with California. And they have done it in a fantastic way. Like Macintosh is not the first one with screen graphical like this. It was Xerox, Altos, the first one. And that time, you know, this is a magazine I've been director of for many years in my life. And what we did at that time was to get software from companies and write articles about the software. And they were specialists in some area of software, and especially in word processing. If you go back to that time, to open a file, every system has a different command. Nowadays, you go on top, file, open, and in 99.9% of situation, we will open the file. This is a great example of order. Doing things the same way is done every time. But this is not only in web page or software. This is also in car. You know, the reason why I can rent a car is the fact that the only thing I need to know is automatic or not. And nowadays they are almost all automatic. Then the brake, the friction, and the accelerator are always in the same position. Can you imagine putting vice versa? You know, an interesting situation where things are put at vice versa? Any idea?
Driving.
No, it's not the car. No, it's the same. It's in the other position, but it's the same. No, it's not the car. It's military jet. In military jet in Occident, you have the speed here. In the center here. In Russia, they have the speed on the other side. But this is done because they don't want, in case of capture by the enemy, it was possible to drive, because, you know, if you drive a fighter, it's not so easy to change attitude. But there is another rule, another thing also with Russia. The dimension, the distance between the rails in a train in Russia are big. There is no other reason that avoid, during an invasion that time, have the enemy train able to go in your own way. But on the other side, unless you have this kind of problem, standard is the most important thing. And this is really the reason why You can rent a car, rent a car in Malaysia, and they drove in Malaysia. Driving is the only thing I don't know in India, because driving in India is almost impossible. You have 20 tuk-tuk coming out, but it's the only place in the world I've seen in the middle of the highway, camels coming in the other direction. And that's quite dangerous for us. Speaking about order, one of the most important things is page breaking. So decide what to put in the different page of what you have on the website. Normally, when I work on a website, we take a wall, take yellow post-it, and we begin writing content, name of content. We put the content there. Then we draw the pages and we begin discussing where to put what. Because this is important. Sometimes it's not done. Sometimes everybody puts things and you have this horrible page and you don't understand nothing because they are full of things. You must take in account that there is a concept that is called information density. Information density is how much useful information there is inside divided by how much total information there is inside. And there are, let's say, the good value is one or more than one. So having less than 50% of a useless thing. If you say make some measurement, you will find that it's not like this, because especially in commercial company, everybody wants to put something in the home page. No, it's a disaster. We have worked on some important web page, and when you decide what to put in the home page, everybody's coming and there's an idea of putting something. But if there is too much thing, it will not be easy to use it. So you must, if the density is too low, it's true that you don't use space and you have long time, because you need maybe to have this number. Why we ask you to measure the number of click, because if like in a railway website to look for a train, I need to click in 5 pages, it's too much, of course. But on the other side, if you have too many things, there is a high cognitive load. People stay for a long time. I told you that measurement of the time is important for trying to understand what's happening. You have possible errors, because if there are many links all together, it's very easy to sweep out and go to the wrong one. And it becomes very difficult to concentrate on what is important. An area which must be simple are menu. This is a menu, an old menu, very nice. I bought it in the flea market in Paris. This is the original menu of McDonald's in San Bernardino. You see, one is very simple. You read like this. The other is very complicated, and you need to really study. And so, ordering can be done with contrast, white space, and colors. You must know the color theory. We have already seen this. You must put together the colors that are okay together and give a meaning. If you put something in red, should be an alert. If you put something in blue, should be something that gives the idea of, okay, quiet, you are in the right position. But if you begin putting right, blue, red, green, people will not understand. And this is the worst thing, because the brain of the customer will begin by itself trying to understand why that's blue. And we lose time. We must think that the activity of the brain of our customer is very precious for us. So we must not waste in stupid things. Then, we spoke before, symmetry and asymmetry is part of this. Then, proportion and hierarchy. if you put something before another, there must be a reason. If something is very big and something is very small, there must be a reason. In this case, it's simple. Bold is the title. The other, this is a simple situation. And the other thing, if people looking at the screen should see the hierarchy. And if you go from one page to another, you must keep, when you move, keep the hierarchy. Once, I remember I was called by a big institution, the IMPS, this pension institution in Italy. And given you what you think about our website. And I remember after 10 minutes, I told you this is crazy. And then didn't give me the job, but that's another story. Because the menu in the first page was on the right, on the left. In the second page, on the right, then was on top, then was on the bottom. If the menu is on the left, leave it on the left. If you need the space in a special part of the website, put it on the bottom. But then in that part will be always in the bottom. So people understand that there is a reason, because space is needed. Not the fact that that morning the guy woke up and says, today is in the bottom. So that's all.